friends, what's happening? This is Kim Anderson on behalf of the Founding Project with Kim in all caps, our online civics tutorial in conjunction with the Founding Project. And I am here and happy to be doing this quick video tutorial for you guys today. It is going to be something. And as you can see, first of all, I am doing all my props today. So my picture may move a little bit, so just bear with me. But I want to give a shout out today. Once again, this is Kim Anderson, Kim in all caps, and I'm super pumped to be representing the big red machine, the Cincinnati Reds today. And this is from Maggie in Ohio. Now listen, here's the deal. Maggie has issued a challenge to all of our Founding Project, Kim in all caps listeners and Civics for all ages listeners, that she now wants to see some Cleveland Indians send in some caps so that they can get a shout out. But here's the deal. Earlier in our lessons, I'm pretty sure that I gave a shout out to the Washington Nationals, and they happen to be in first place right now. So whenever you're seeing this video, we are giving some props to the Cincinnati Reds because guess what? They could really use it because right now they're last in their division. So I am expecting a turnaround because they simply got a shout out from Civics in all ages and Kim Anderson with Kim in all caps. So we want to make sure that you are represented and your teams are starting to do well in their respective sports vernaculars. Now let me say this. Well, maybe I'll say that later. But listen, but honestly, I'm really thrilled to be wearing the Cincinnati Reds cap because growing up, I was a huge fan of the big red machine. I mean, like totally seriously. And if anybody knows where Dave Concepcion is, you tell him Kim Anderson and Kim in all caps said, hey, do that for me. But okay, y'all know I'm goofy by now, right? Okay, so now let us get to our civics lesson today. Is that hilarious? Okay, I know. So, Cleveland Indians fans, you know what to do. Now, we're going to talk about a really interesting thing today about limited government, but how a limited government can protect the individual rights of its citizens. And so we're still going to go back. Our lessons haven't brought us completely up to current time yet. But what we're going to do, we're still in the Constitution being signed period of time and the things that are going on in that landscape. And what our lessons will do is sort of lay a historical foundation for us and bring us up to modern day understanding. And so, so if you're wondering, well, why aren't we talking about what's going on right now, civics wise? Well, what we want to do is lay that foundation of understanding why things got to be the way they were and how that now manifests for us here in the right now. So it's sort of historical, but laying a foundation. Okay. So I'm sorry, I couldn't prop it, so I have to hold it. So we're going to go through the lesson. And we're using the Alpha Omega Publishing civics lesson. And they've entitled this lesson, Limited Government, the Relationship Between Political and Economic Freedom. I don't know if I quite agree with that per se. But we're going to talk. Am I in the right lesson? Because you guys know some things could change. Hold on for a second. I don't know. Like suddenly that didn't seem like the right lesson, but it was. Alrighty. So I'm going to be still. Okay, here we go. And so where we are and what we're talking about today is how the authors of the Constitution developed into the Republic and how the views and opinions of citizens could and should be voiced by and to a group of elected officials and qualified representatives. And so one of the first things that this limited government should do that the Founding Fathers, love my Cincinnati Reds. Okay. One of the things that the Founding Fathers wanted to do was provide liberty for states and citizens. And so the primary goal of the writers of the Constitution was to form a government that would have enough power and authority to guarantee the common good of the American society as a whole, but at the same time be sufficiently limited in its ability to trample upon the rights and liberties of its individual citizens. Now that's, if you think about it, that's really a monumental task, because obviously that had never been done before. Most times everything was a monarchy. And so the monarchy didn't care. They just, well, I won't say they didn't care, but they just set the sails. They just set the course of the country, and that was it. Deal with it. They didn't really have a heart for what the people might have wanted. They just set aside and set forth, this was the direction of the country. But what's really unique about what the founding fathers really wanted to do was to give the individual a voice, but at the same time protect society. And it's almost like you want to ask them, like, well, who does that? Because it had never been done before, but they felt like this was what they needed. They needed to go macro and micro at the same time. So who does that? Who thinks that way? Well, our founding fathers did. Then another point that the lesson points out is that what they wanted, the founding fathers wanted the American government to provide liberty. Now let's talk about that really quick. They decided that they wanted to create laws and structures of government that would guide our society and preserve the freedoms of citizens. They were very, very aware that government unchecked could run over the rights of the individual citizen. So they decided to, I just got a text. It's like, ooh, okay. Oh, just bear with me. They decided that it would be necessary to write these laws, freedoms, and structures into a constitution. Now, our Constitution was not the first Constitution, but it became the U.S. Constitution, which served as the plan for our national government. And so the next important factor that the founding fathers wanted to ensure that this Constitution or this new government would adhere to was the fact that the new government should adhere and follow natural law. Now, the theory of natural law says that natural order exists in our universe. That this theory puts forth the idea that all things have a certain and natural moral design. Now, through reasoning, philosophers over the course of time believed that governmental power had limits, and all people in governments were bound by natural law. Now, this reasoning really did influence Thomas Jefferson as he wrote the Declaration of Independence, in which he declared that famous line that humans had unalienable, say it fast, unalienable rights. And in the Declaration of Independence, he called those unalienable rights life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, if these rights were unalienable, then government would have no authority to, my hand is getting, hopefully I'm back. Hopefully I'm back. Okay. I'm going to keep going. That government would not have the authority to remove or to deny those rights. And so he was very, very clear and very adamant that those things continue. Unalienable rights. We cannot take these rights away from the individual. And so the new government wanted to make sure that this understanding was a contractual arrangement between people and the government. And it became known as representative government. Now, here in the States, we had in 1619 in Virginia, we had the first representative government that was created and established. But the first written agreement between government and the people came in 1620 in what was called the Mayflower Compact. And what this compact stated was that the people agreed to obey the law and the government agreed to protect the people. That seems pretty simple, right? Like, here's our understanding, and everybody, we're going to do our part, and you people, you individuals are going to do your part. You agree to follow the law, and we agree to protect you. That seems pretty clear and pretty good. And so as the Constitutional Convention happened in 1776, those folks that were there were united in a desire to create a new government that would be strong enough to rule the nation while at the same time respect the liberties of the states and the people. Now, if you guys get a chance, please go watch the docudrama of John Adams. It will give you a really good picture of the haggling that was going on at that Continental Congress when they were writing and signing the Declaration of Independence and declaring that these states were going to be united. They actually had to be united. Like all 13 colonies had to agree that this was what was going to happen. And so, you know, growing up, we kind of think that it's like this utopia that everyone came and they were dancing on fairy dust and they were all so excited to become independent and be free from England. But no, that really wasn't how it all sort of transpired. Though we get this romantic view of what happened, it's really good. It's a really good dramatization of really all the haggling and the hand-holding and the agreement making that went on for the states to be united. So when you get a chance, just check that out. Where are we? We are moving on. So what ended up happening in that Continental Congress was that the new government ended up being modeled after so many of the states, because the states had models of legislatures with an upper house and a lower house, which became representative of our Senate and our House of Representatives. And so the system of government present in the 13 states was the model that was adopted into the Constitution. And that also helped in the balance of power that the federal government has become known for. So, almost done. Just hang with me. I know I'm fidgety. I feel fidgety, but it's okay. I'm almost done. It's Cincinnati Reds. We're getting them up in the standings. Providing liberty through a federal republic. Now, this is a really, really interesting thing. And you guys know this as Americans instinctively, but I don't know that you put a term to it. So let me just describe this really quick. In adopting the Constitution, the states maintained some of their sovereignty and delegated some powers to the national government. Like they gave up some of their stateness to become part of a collective, while still maintaining some individual states' rights and laws. Because, you know, even now, you can the laws in Texas don't apply to the state of Michigan. The laws in Arizona don't necessarily apply to the state of Maryland. They're different laws in different states, right? Like we know that, we understand that. But this arrangement of government in which both state and national government have authority over the same citizen is known as federalism. Now, that's what it was then, right? But under the federal system of government, power is divided on the basis of territory. There are two levels of government over the same people and the same area. So the two levels of government are state and federal. Now, during that time with the 13 states, right, you only had state law and federal law. But now think about how many laws and layers there are that we are ruled under. I don't know if we should call it multi-federalism, because we have municipalities and even then counties and then even state and then federal. So it's sort of like it started off being two, but now in some places it can be as many as four at least. I know here in Florida we have city and then we have county. And then we have state, and then we have federal. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in between. And so in your area, it may be multi like that as well. You might have different areas and levels of government. And I don't know what term that is. So maybe we made up a new term. It's multi-federalism, because it goes beyond just the two-state rule for you and for me. So it's pretty interesting when you think about it. And so, state laws and federal laws express the authority of the state and the national government and provide for a division of power that protects the citizens by keeping power from being concentrated only at the state or national level. Now that's huge, because the founding fathers never wanted it to be oppressive, where one rule applied, where it was like the federal government speaks and that's it. There's nothing else. There's no more recourse. They did not want to have that blanket over the people, which would have just been sort of a monarchy, because Once again, you have one voice, and whatever that voice says goes. That is not what the founding fathers wanted. So then this implementation of federalism came into being, where you had a state rule and then you had federal rule, which once again was so out of the box at the time, because you could ask, who does this? Who literally gives power back to the people? No one was doing that. Founding fathers are pretty amazing. But anyway, and the last point that they want to talk about in this lesson is providing liberty through a separation of powers. Now, separation of powers, we know that they're different branches of government. Now, interestingly enough, we will get to this. We now say that they're equal branches of government, but in the Constitution, it wasn't written that way. But we'll talk about that later. I don't want to confuse the issue. Just let's say that there's liberty is provided by separation of powers. Jefferson and the founding fathers got this idea from a French philosopher called Montesquieu, which I'm sure you might have heard of. But basically what Montesquieu said was that there should be more than one seat of power. Now we have an executive branch, we have a judicial branch, and we have a legislative branch. No branch is supposed to be higher in authority than the other. Once again, we'll talk about that as the days come along. But the simple idea, once again, you have to think, you can't just look at now, but understand how radical this idea was in the 1700s, how radical it was to divide power. Most of the governments of that time were trying to consolidate power, bring all the power to themselves, not let it go out to the states, not let it go out to the individuals so that those rights would be protected. So this thing was completely it was so radical. It was so never done before that this grand experience and experiment of America doing government this way, allowing it to transpire this way, is what we're fighting for today. So, guys, that is it. Now, let me tell you what our lesson is for next time. This is going to be really interesting. It's titled Liberalism, Republicanism, and the American Constitutional Republic. Now, here's the thing. Don't think of it in the terms that we understand them today. We're going to examine the original meanings of those words and those parties and see if they correlate any to what we're experiencing today. So that should be a very, very interesting lesson. And that is all we've got. So I'm praying that we're still live and that I didn't mess it up because I was moving my hand. It looks like everything's okay. So it has been my pleasure to share with you today just Civics for all ages. I'm Kim Anderson, Kim in all caps. You know what to do. Go to the Founding Projects page on Facebook, like their page, send me your caps so that I can give you guys a shout out. Now, I'm serious. You guys have to expect that the Reds are getting ready to start to do better. All right. You have to expect that. That's what's getting ready to happen because we gave them a shout out on Kim in all caps with Civics for all ages. So guys, I'm so thrilled, so honored, and so pleased to be able to present these lessons to you. Have an awesome day. Share them with your friends. Let them know that there's some funny lady on Facebook that's giving these lessons out just to help keep people educated and informed. So God bless you guys. We love you. We'll talk to you soon, friends. Have a great one. Bye-bye.